visitors and guests. It's my great pleasure to welcome you back to, well, technically it's our first lunch, but second meeting for the year, our 5064th. Thank you very much to those that came and volunteered at Ryman last week. It was great to see everyone really getting in and helping out at the warehouse. I'd also like to wish you all a very happy new year, and may the year of the snake bring us endless opportunities of service and joy. I'm especially delighted to see Peter Hollingsworth here today. Peter, it's been wonderful to see you back at our lunches. Thank you for coming. At Rotary Melbourne, we're spoilt for choice when seeking leaders in fields of business, and our vocational services panel, our annual panel, convened today is going to be very stimulating and exciting. Today's panel, expertly arranged by past President Reg Smith, includes Joseph Ebbage, who is a former Market Development Manager for Almond Board of Australia, Dr. Carol Bond, a lecturer in management at RMIT University, and our moderator, Jenny Tang, corporate lawyer. More formal introductions will come shortly, but in the meantime, please join me in acknowledging them. As a club guest today, we have Mamoon Hack, I apologise. Mamoon will be shortly inducted into our club and is accompanied today by Violetta Fallon, who's a friend. So would you please join me in making them both welcome? Now, we have a number of guests today, which I'd like to acknowledge. Dr. Patricia Van Machuska, a guest of Debian Fu, Ross Nicholson, a visitor, and Julie Gleeson, guest of Peter Hollingsworth. Could I just ask you to stand up briefly, and we'll give you a round of applause to acknowledging your coming. Thank you very much. I'd also like to acknowledge Noel, our waiter, who has been so wonderful over many, many years. It's Noel's last day today. I know, we're all going to miss your smiling face, Noel. Thank you very much for the many years of help that you've given us. Thank you, Noel. Thank you. Now, I'd like to ask Sam McClarty to come to the stage to talk about the Bionics Institute Giving Day and the focus of Alzheimer's. So, Sam, over to you.
Thank you, President Catherine. I appreciate you giving me the opportunity just to stand up here and speak for a minute. So at the Bionics Institute, we have our upcoming major fundraiser for the year. Like, this is it in terms of the calendar year, and it is our Giving Day. So this year, we are looking to raise funds for Alzheimer's disease. It's a beast of a disease. It doesn't discriminate, and I'm sure a lot of you have an Alzheimer's story. I know I do. I lost my nan a couple of years ago now to Alzheimer's disease, so clearly it's very personal. So I just want to reach out to all of you and let you know that we are raising funds for Alzheimer's disease. And if you'd like to contribute, whether personally or through corporate, please just come and have a chat to me after the meeting. And it's also a great opportunity right now to say a massive thank you, a real heartfelt thank you from myself and everyone at the Institute to all of you who have supported us over the years. It's the best part of my job is actually your friendship and also your support. So thank you very much.
And I'd also like to wish Sam a congratulations for his forthcoming wedding in only a few weeks' time. Now, could I ask Mamoon to come to the stage to be inducted, and Stephen Rando, could you join as well? So I'll first pass to Stephen, who's going to read a little bit about your bio, and then I'll do the induction, and we'll give you a moment or two to respond to that. So, Stephen, over to you.
Thank you very much, Catherine. Well, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the start of a fantastic 2025. To give introduction to this man, I did write something on paper, and I thought, how do I describe someone that's done some amazing things to our club and how fortunate we are to be graced by your presence today, Mamoon. His journey starts in another country, firstly, So not only an immigrant of Australia, but then obviously to learn the language, understand the process and procedure, and obviously then to start a business in Australia to where it is today is absolutely outstanding. But it's a bit more than that for Mamun, because he is able to present a business that aligns to cultural, community, and more importantly, how people are today in employing them in Australia. And his organisation has taken all around the world in terms of empowering others. And I've seen this firsthand in Samoa, where Mamun had a couple of products in his bag and spoke to someone who didn't have an opportunity of employment. And that woman now is thriving and able to be self-sufficient in her own way. So, Mamun, on behalf of the club, I look forward to sharing you, I guess, with the rest of our club here today and to work on many community projects for now and in the future, Mamun. So, thank you.
Now, we had a bit of feedback on the microphone. I think that's maybe settled down. Mamun, we welcome you. Welcome you as a member of the Rotary Club of Melbourne. Today you enter an organisation with more than 1.2 million members and close to 37,000 clubs around the world. That's in 221 countries. We believe that you have the personal and professional qualities that will ensure that principles of Rotary will be safe in the future. The Rotary badge will receive an alignment, and I hope you will wear with pride indicates your commitment to the object of Rotary to which we all aspire, to encourage the ideal of service above self. We expect that you will become an ambassador for us in the community in which you live, and we ask that you convey to everyone that you need Rotary's aims. We look forward to you pursuing with us the great work of Rotary. So with this expectation, I offer you the right hand of friendship and ask members to rise and acknowledge to a time. Now, apparently, please be seated. Apparently, the feedback is resolved, so you won't have to hear me shouting again. And Mamun, we're going to pass to you to respond, please.
Thank you. Thank you so much, President Catherine. I'm really honored to become a member today. Although I just became a member today, but I've been coming here a few times, and I think I feel very comfortable. It's like the unity of this club, the family-oriented attitude is really appealing. And my business, I'm founder of Greenleaf Cosmetics. It's all about sustainable solutions. It's about bringing back support to the communities with a global focus. And I feel that Rotary has been doing this for a very long time, and this is the reason that I joined the club, because I do want to give back to the community. I want to support locals, and I want to grow. So I really look forward to learning from all of you and growing professionally and personally with you, and I would do my best to contribute and uphold the trust and faith I've been shown today. So thank you so much. Thank you for welcoming me.
Now, I have a birthday to acknowledge today. Sandra Hills. We'll do a quick spotlight on Sandra as she makes her way up to the stage. Sandra was born in Melbourne and began her career as a nurse, mostly working with people with disabilities. And she pursued some further study and took on some senior management roles in the health and community services industry. Sandra worked for the Brotherhood of St Lawrence for almost 10 years as a general manager in aged care and community care, before commencing her current position of Chief Executive of the Anglican Aged Care Services, Benetas, in 2009. Benetas is one of the largest providers of aged and community care services in Victoria and is recognised as a Gender Equity Agency Australia as an employer of choice for women. Sandra has contributed to the research and advocacy of taking volunteer leadership roles in the aged care sector. And in June 2017, Sandra was acknowledged with an Order of Australia. Sandra was inducted on the 30th of June 2010. So we've been in the club a little while now. And from the outset, she's been involved in many, many different areas, including in the community health and ageing. Despite working in a demanding role, Sandra's really lent her strategic and planning skills to a number of areas, including our Horizons and nominating committees, and also remained a member of reception, as we saw today, and has also been Master of Ceremonies for a number of our lunches. Sandra's married to John and lives in the Yarra Valley. So would you all please congratulate Sandra and happy birthday, and join me in singing happy birthday to completely embarrass her. Just a quick reminder about the music scholarship. You've all received an email by now. It's an inaugural scholarship, so help us find those talented musicians out there, and nominations and guidelines are on the website. Just a few quick other events to note for February. Next week, we've got our Lord Mayor, Nick Rees, joining us for the annual State of the City address, so please make sure you diarise that. And on the 12th of February, bring the picnic blankets and let's go to picnic in the park. Make sure you bring a chair. So that's on at 5:30 on the 12th. And then the 28th of February, we've got the Arts Committee Architectural Walk led by Barbara Rondis. So another interesting one. That will start at the Curtin Hotel opposite Trades Hall and end with dinner at the Imperial. So there's some flyers on your tables about that as well. It's now my pleasure to welcome past President Reg Smith, who is going to introduce our vocational services panel. Over to you, Reg.
Thank you, Catherine, and I'll try and keep this brief because the main show is about to begin. It's my pleasure to introduce this session with some background about our Vocational Service Committee. Alongside service above self, vocational service is one of the foundations of Rotary's operating model. Through our diverse vocational talents, Rotarians work together to make the world a better place. Our club's Vocational Service Committee works quietly in the background under the leadership of Marg Laser, who's been in that role for a few years, to enable us to celebrate exemplary vocational service in a variety of ways. And I might just add the committee is looking for members all the time. So anyone with a bit of an interest in what I've got to say, please contact Marg or myself. And by the way, Iqbal Rita, who is the Director for Vocational Service, is on a deserved vacation overseas, and he's an apology for today. The Young Achievers Award is the first of the programs, and that's open right now for nominations, and will be awarded to three promising young leaders who are excelling in their early career or career preparation, but also giving distinguished community service. The Vocational Service Award, which we award typically in October each year, highlights lifetime career achievements and the application of those skills above and beyond in service to the community. And we've really got some very high quality people that we've identified over the years. We've also been actively involved in a number of mentoring programs, most notably the District 9800 Police Mentoring program, which enables our members to support a frontline police leader to develop a broader perspective on their community. A new initiative we're piloting this year is to offer support for fellows coming to Australia under the Department of Foreign Affairs Australian Awards, and these people are working typically in research institutions and so on, and our offer is to give them some experience of the social side and the community in which they're operating. And finally, of course, there's today's event. Today's event, the annual Vocational Service Issues panel discussion, the purpose of it is to showcase vocational talents of club members by inviting them to share their insights on a topical issue in the local and international community. So without further ado, I'm going to invite Jenny Tang, who's the moderator of today's panel, to come to the podium and introduce the panellists and get the conversation underway. Thank you, Jenny.
Thanks, Reg. It's so lovely to be here. Happy New Year. I just want to call out to Peter Hollingworth. So lovely to see you. And also Robin Syme, who actually was my nominator. I think this year marks 11 years of membership for this club. And so it's great to see Mamoon here join as well. So I hope your Rotary journey is just as enriching as it has been for me. So I have the privilege today of moderating this discussion on ethics in marketing. And on our panel today, we have panellist Carol Bond, who's a senior lecturer at the College of Business and Law at RMIT University. Carol has been a research and teaching focused academic for 18 years in Australia and has research interests that have given her the opportunity to work on sustainability and social licence practices for large firms in the oil, gas, pipeline and mining industries. Joseph Babbage has 20 years of experience managing the market development program of the Australian almond industry, which involved a comprehensive marketing portfolio, including media advertising both within Australia and export markets. He's also had 10 years of experience as a senior national category manager at Coles supermarkets. And Joe has worked on a range of marketing consulting projects and market research projects over the last 2 decades within FMGC industry. So without further ado, the outline for today is that we thought we'd show you 3 different advertisements that we've all chosen. And it'll be interesting. We'll spend about 5 minutes discussing each after we show you the advertisements. And, you know, we all receive information differently, given our backgrounds and lived experience. So it'd be really interesting to share and see what others think about these advertisements. So without further ado, let's cue up the first ad, which Carol has chosen.
At Woodside, we believe in doing what's right. That's why working sustainably is one of our core values and is supported by our 5 sustainability principles. In 2017, we reduced personal safety incidents by 21% and reported no Tier 1 or Tier 2 process safety events. We continue to explore the application of LNG as a cleaner fuel source and implemented sustained emission savings across our operations. We made significant progress towards increased Indigenous employment, cultural awareness, and awarded more contracts to Indigenous businesses. We contributed more than $16 million in community investment, including infrastructure, environment, employment, and education. And we increased our commitment to corporate volunteering, with 43% of Woodsiders volunteering their skills to various programs. This commitment to sustainability resulted in Woodside receiving the Dow Jones Sustainability Index Award Silver Class for a 2nd consecutive year. Looking ahead, we will continue to seek opportunities to improve our sustainability performance and to meaningfully contribute to the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, which aim to address the world's most pressing economic, environmental and social challenges.
Well, Woodside seems like the model corporate citizen from that ad. Carol, why did you choose that ad and what are your reflections?
Okay. Hopefully you can hear me okay? Great. So I've been teaching the case study of Woodside to my students at RMIT. Okay, that may be a little bit better. Okay, so I've been teaching case studies from Australia to my College of Business and Law students, both the ones that are matriculating for the first time as first year, first semester students, as well as my graduating students in the capstone classes. I don't actually have a problem, or I should say I'm neutral about Woodside and its business, okay? So I do not have an edge or an axe or anything to grind about them. But what I'm trying to teach my students is how to read between the lines and not take these sustainability reports at face value. Now, at the end of the video, they talk about the UN sustainability goals. There's 17 of them, and no corporation can meet all 17. Most corporations pick between 3 and 5, and they really drill down on those. And to the Woodside's credit, they're working on improving Aboriginal employment. They're improving opportunities for gender diverse and ethnically diverse people. They are providing opportunities for the community to give back. And they are trying to develop products that lower emissions, all of which are good things to do. And they tell you that they're spending millions of dollars on these particular projects. But what I notice is several things are missing. The way they're using the word sustainability is not the way that most academics use the word sustainability. Sustainability has to do with the people who live on this planet and having a viable lifestyle for generations to come. The way Woodside is using the word sustainability is how can they sustain their business, right? Sustainability of their business versus sustainability of the planet, right? All of what they said right there helps them keep their business going and keep the public happy. Now, if you look at their sustainability reports, and it's online, and you read what they say, and it's all very uplifting language. They have shiny, glossy pages. They have pictures of happy people at cricket pitches. They have, indigenous rangers looking at the marshlands in the upper northwest corner. And they say that they spend $240 million on their environmental sustainability. And you'd think, wow, that's great, really good for Western Australia. And they've lowered their emissions from producing their products in Australia, which is fabulous. So those are called Scope 1 and Scope 2 emissions, right? The emissions you need to create your product and the emissions you use when you're extracting your product. But where does Woodside sell its product? Anybody know? Japan, India, other places around Asia. And Woodside makes $4.5 billion in profit. They're spending 200 and so million in Australia. That's 0.13% of their profit on sustainability in Australia. And then they export their product to other places in Asia, which is Scope 3 emissions, and end up polluting the air and the environment of the countries to which they're exporting their product. And when you push Woodside on, is this your problem? They say, all we do is sell our product. It's not our responsibility what our clients do with it, right? So when this is called corporate greenwashing. And the problem with this is when you talk to marketing people and say to them, why are you helping them put forward this kind of mask of good corporate citizenship? And they say, well, we have a business to run. We have people to pay. We do the best we can to modulate the message, but ultimately, the one with the gold makes the rules, right? So this is the kind of thing that I'm looking at here. So when you hear corporations using the word sustainability, how are they using it? Is it about their business? Or is it about the planet? What are the activities they're focusing on? In none of those examples they gave did they say anything about the environment. There's a whole bunch of undersea whales and corals and a variety of sea life that are being adversely affected by Woodside's undersea operations. They haven't addressed that there. And so when I ask people to look at these sustainability profiles, I'm not saying that Woodside's a bad company. I know people who work for Woodside. I know people who are working on the inside to try to change the narrative. But when you look at a company that's basically based on selling fossil fuels and understanding that fossil fuels is not the way of the future, it's up to us as consumers to be critical listeners.
Thanks, Carol. That's great. It's interesting with greenwashing. It's become an incredibly important issue, particularly for Woodside, which is a publicly listed company, and all of us probably hold shares in Woodside through our superannuation funds. So it's an interesting one, and ASIC has really taken a focus on greenwashing in the last 12 to 18 months. So it's an interesting one. Does anyone have any reflections or comments they want to make? around this ad. Peter.
Carol, that was good. I'm just wondering whether you would have preferred them to have taken a different line, and that is to talk in terms of the transitional nature of gas as preferable to coal, and to perhaps quantified a benefit there.
Absolutely. That's a fantastic question. And I would absolutely say that for them to be more transparent about their transition plan and how they intend to participate in helping Australia meet its 2035 and 2050 goals in a realistic way would be helpful. I just think, it's the more transparent these companies can be, actually, the more onside they'll have for the public. And I think actually their share prices will go up rather than sowing seeds of distrust.
Thanks, Carol. We might move to the next ad. Could we queue up the next ad, please? Thanks, Joe. This one's one that I chose.
Macca.
Hey, Macca.
Macca.
Oh, Macca.
Oi, Macca.
G'day, Macca. Hey, Maccas. Good to see you, Macca.
All the best, Macca.
Big Mac.
Macca.
G'day, Macca. G'day, guys. How are we?
Brownie.
What's he doing here?
Maccas?
Great. All right. So this ad actually was part of the campaign
Macca.
in 2021. Here we go. And Macca's has a long-standing relationship with the AFL. It's actually the longest-standing corporate partnership. So it commenced in 2014, and only just after this ad was shown, it was renewed for another 10 years. And I think there's the old age question of, sports being associated with fast food. And I think, almost 2/3 of Australians are overweight and on the
Macca.
type 2 diabetes. So I think it's an interesting partnership that the AFL has. But I think the bigger issue, when I watch this ad, and I don't know what others think, the context of this ad, the ad agency actually said, how can we make ourselves and McDonald's and the AFL more synonymous with each other? And the answer was right in front of us, because there's so many Maccas within the AFL. And I think what this ad really shows is the lack of diversity there is in the AFL. There were like 2 women in that ad, and all the rest were white men with the surname Maccas. And then there's the one odd person who's the symbol of diversity, who's a brown, who's also a white man. So when I watched that, I thought that was incredibly, from an AFL perspective, their commitment to bringing diversity to the game, I think that is at odds with that. And I think for McDonald's, as a private business, it's not reflective of their customers and who they're trying to target. So I actually felt like that ad was really archaic and quite marginalising. As someone who's on boards in sports and in AFL, and I sit on the AFL Victoria board and chair the Bulldogs Foundation, I was quite shocked by that ad. So I just open it up to people's first impressions and reflections.
Is Macca short for macaroon?
I think that sounds too classy for football crowd. Anyone else have any observations? Rob?
Jenny, I don't know if you saw the news today, but the AFL is negotiating to increase their take of sports bet from 40 million up. So I guess you can't expect too much from the AFL, that approach as well.
Well, it's interesting. What are people's views around the social responsibility? I mean, we're talking about ethics in marketing. They apply differently, I think, to McDonald's and to the AFL, because McDonald's as a private business, I think, has different motivations and interests in advertising. But I think for the AFL, who has a social license in relation to sport and community, what are people's thoughts about that?
Going to bed with the devil. It's not just the AFL and Maccas, it's many other companies there. Where do you draw the line? Are there guidelines? Who sets the guidelines? Also, when it's a generational thing.
Yeah, that's an interesting one, David. And I think at the Western Bulldogs Football Club, one of our main sponsors is the cryptocurrency exchange, which I find completely bizarre because one of the decisions the club made was to divest all its gambling assets. One could argue that crypto is almost like gambling. And, you know, when we look at the example of tobacco advertising, which was, you know, from sport in 1976 was cut out, and there seems to be a strong support for that. But we still see a lot of alcohol advertising, gambling advertising, and fast food advertising. And it's almost as if it's generally accepted as part of Australian society. And, you know, I think we do have to put those things into question when thinking about the type of harm it causes people in the community, especially with sports betting and young people with the apps. I think that is continuing to grow as an issue for young people.
Jennifer, that's all good. With the gambling advertising, I think we see statistics that indicate a majority of the population would ban gambling advertising on television. Do we have similar statistics for fast food, for example? Maybe it's not 50%.
Yeah, I think it's more about the obesity issue that we have in Australia. I mean, you know, the numbers of increasingly overweight people in Australia is significantly high. So ABS released statistics that 2/3 of people are overweight. Type 2 diabetes is becoming incredibly prevalent in our community, and cholesterol issues. So I think those things are linked to fast food. And I think McDonald's is a big part of that story, especially with the AFL, which is a national code. I think there is some social responsibility on the AFL to think about the alignment with some of their relationships. So it's a challenge for sport because they also, McDonald's is one of the biggest corporate partners for them who give them a lot of funding. So it's very difficult. All right, so maybe we'll move to the next ad. Let's queue up the one that Joe has chosen.
Never used to believe in reincarnation. That is until I came back as this. A bin chicken. Your name, not mine. And I get it. Used to be a parking inspector. Probably took my job a little too seriously. Good on you. I suppose some things have a better second life than others. Look at that bottle of Mount Franklin. It's made from 100% recycled plastic. No complaints there. What are you looking at, chicken legs?
Mount Franklin, the spring water Aussies love, with bottles made from 100% recycled plastic. A sip in the right direction.
Bin chicken? What a stitch up!
Thanks, Joe. I chose this particular ad just to raise a couple of issues. Well, first of all, just a quick little bit of info on Mount Franklin. Obviously, it's a Coca-Cola owned brand of water. So that was their way of, in a sense, leveraging the health trend of moving away from a sugary aerated water and Coke into bottled water. It's really obviously it's about a sustainability story. In many ways, from a marketing perspective, we call it permission to buy. So, you know, what are the problems with the product? They're trying to address that. It's 100%, that their bottles are made of 100% recycled plastic, except for the labels and caps. So that's always a problem, I think, when you say something's 100% accept. In mind, we'll push on from that. The other, I mean, there are, given the topic today is ethics in marketing, you'd say, well, you know, when you look at the product, and you say, well, and it's hard to know, you know, the International Bottled Water Association, and you can imagine how unbiased they would be, that they calculate that a litre of water, a litre of bottled water requires something between 3 and 5 litres of water to create. So there's a sort of a bit of a, you know, kind of a disconnect in that point. And then, of course, there is the undoubted question of waste and what happens at the end of the life of the product. So So from my perspective, having now been involved my career in marketing was about 30 years or so, 10 as a retailer and 20 as a on the supply side. I suppose I came to the conclusion that my job as a professional marketer was not to be a social engineer. My job was to generate the optimum return on investment for the funds invested in the marketing activities. So that's sort of where I stood professionally as a job. That said, marketing is a combination of art and craft, or art and science. So there's the craft and science of marketing, which looks at what's your reach, what's your engagement, what's your return on investment, what's your increase in sales, what's the The art bit is trickier, because it's really about what's the art of communication, and what are you trying to establish for the future. And I think this is where we've been talking about is, when you deliver a message, is it credible? Are you speaking with some sense of authenticity? Are you going to be trusted, both of a brand or a person? And having said that, let me take my other, the other marketing component, which is more prevalent than you think, which goes back to the words of Groucho Marx, who said, "The secret to success in life is honesty and integrity. And if you can fake that, you can make it." So I suppose largely I'd like to, oops, Daisy, sorry. I'd start by saying, the art of the ethics in marketing is a tricky area. I don't think professional marketers are social engineers. I personally would come down on the view that it's us as consumers, individuals, families, and communities who set the scene. Marketers of lawful products will optimise their investment. That's ultimately their job. But that said, I think you have to balance it out with, are you going to be taken seriously into the future? And I suppose that's really where we had a couple of discussions where company boards and directors who have a more strategic view and a longer term view than, say, the brand manager who's looking for their next KPI, that's their role.
Thanks, Joe. That's some really interesting points raised there. Does anyone have any reflections around that in terms of ethics in marketing and the responsibility of corporations? Are they able to take it as far as they'd like, and we just have to basically process and assess the information as it is?
Just one reflection there. The first example you gave on Woodside, that if you went the full extent you were advocating then, that was Carol, I think it was, they wouldn't have as many customers to sell their product to. They've got billions of dollars invested. It's very, very difficult for them to change tact on that. So I just put that out there.
Well, I think there's, misleading and deceptive conduct is one thing, and marketing is another. So I think there's always a fine line there where you can misrepresent and greenwash what you're doing. Carol, did you have anything you wanted to respond to that?
I think I'll try to stand up here. I think that this idea of promoting a positive image of whichever brand is increasingly going to meet the squeeze between shareholders and community stakeholders, because shareholders have one set of needs and community stakeholders have another. And where the marketing comes into play, at least from an academic perspective, is trying to find that fine line where, as you say in politics, neither side is completely happy, but in there we have the compromise. And as we try to, reach the Sustainable Development Goals, we want to present our corporations in the best possible light, but also realize that there is some real existential angst, especially among young people who are very distrustful of the happy marketing. I think the more that corporations can be a little more humble about their claims and reflect that they understand that the future cannot continue the way the past has been, the better off we'll all be. And marketers have a real place to help us shape that dialogue.
Thanks, Carol. Peter, did you want to make a comment?
Hollingworth's still there. I just wanted to say, just to deal on the Macca process, there's another Macca whom I remember also, and I'm sure you'll remember, when I was a young sociology student at Melbourne University. His name was Marshall McLuhan. And Marshall McLuhan then wrote a book, and it was called The Media is the Message. And there was another book that came out, this is a sort of tip-on of that, that said, The Media is the Massage. And I think that what has happened, business enterprise has thought, well, we have a mean by which we can communicate ourselves as good actors in the game. And there's nothing like the media to provide a massage to it. And the real trouble we've got, and you're all saying this too, that in fact there's a whole thing, a lot of things going on in the processes of our modern mediated society that are abandoned or ignored. And it's quite right that young people of this generation are known and know how to devise what's going on behind the lines and what is truth and what is not. And good on them, and good on you all for pushing this, because this is very important.
Thanks so much, Peter. That's some wise words and observations there. We're actually all out of time, but what I thought I'd do before we finish up is just to get a show of hands of what people thought of the ads. So the first ad on Woodside, who thinks they might invest in more Woodside because they watched that ad? Oh, okay, a few, good. Okay, that's good. Who thinks they might go and buy McDonald's after this lunch because they saw that ad? Nice one, Bernie. And Peter too. And who thinks they might go and get a nice bottled Mount Franklin bottle of water because it's 100% recycled material after they saw that ad? 0. Well, that's very... oh, here we go. A couple at the back there. So that was... I hope everyone found that really useful. We really enjoyed putting that together. So thank you for having us, and we'll see you next time.
Jenny, Joseph, and Carol, thank you. Thank you. Carol, particularly because you're up against it a bit right now with one of your joints. Can I just say, I wanted to add a huge accolade to Joe Mavros. 5 minutes before we started today, we didn't think we'd have the audio or the video, so she's got it working, and congratulations, Joe. But back to our panellists, I think you might have all been hoping you weren't going to get the traditional reward for being on the panel. But I have news for you, you will. It's our famous iconic stocks, even distinguishing for the ladies and the gents. So I'll bring to you separately afterwards a pair of our famous Endersby wilderness wear socks, and I'm sure you'll enjoy them enormously. Thanks, everyone. Now, it's my duty to close the meeting, and I'd also like to pass on thanks to all of our visitors and also to our MC for the day who filled in at short notice, and that was Bernie McIntosh. Thank you, Bernie. You must be a natural. I think you've missed your career calling, actually. A reminder that next week, lunch here at number 35. A guest speaker, as I think you're all indelibly etched now, is Nicholas Rees, our new Lord Mayor, who I'm delighted to say has also accepted honorary membership of the club, which is a terrific development for us. It's the state of the city, I think, not to be missed to get a read on our new Lord Mayor's vision for the city.